Okay, so I'm doing a quick after-hours intro, so I'm going to ask you to please pardon my appearance. It's been an absolute crazy day today. And also I got some new light fixture hanging, so to bring a little more light to the subject. I'm hoping we'll be able to see better, won't be too many reflections, so we're going to see how it works out. They're LED lights, but we'll see what happens. All right, so I am currently working on a 1997 Ford F450 Super Duty 7.3 liter diesel, and the transmission is the E4OD. So I got some of it done. It's a utility truck, and what I have on the bench here is a Transgo shift kit. So we're gonna go step by step and install this Transgo shift kit into this E4OD. All right, I got everything laid out. We're going to be putting, this is the accumulator body. We're going to be putting some stuff in here. The direct drum gets a special O-ring, the pump. We got a spiral clip here, and I have a solenoid body I want to show you. And also a separated plate. We got to drill a couple of holes. All right, so what we'll do first tomorrow morning is we'll go through the contents of the shift kit, and then we can go ahead and start installing the shift kit. I have the valves out here, everything that pretty much has to be addressed, just to save a little time. But I can go over, getting those out. It's pretty simple, especially with these end plugs on this accumulator body. They have threaded holes, and the valve body bolts fit perfectly in here to screw in and just knock the plug right out. You take the clip out and you knock the plug right out. Pretty easy. All right, and this is the pressure regulator setup here, but again, I'm going to get closer and we're going to do all that, and I'm hoping with my new light that everything will be nice and easy to see from now on, especially when I'm filming very early in the morning and it's still dark out. So I think that is about it. So I'm going to pick it up with you guys again tomorrow morning, and we're going to install this Transgo shift kit for this E4OD, and 4R100 basically is the same kit, but I install on every E4OD or 4R100 that comes through here gets a shift kit. It's a great shift kit, it's a great product, and it really makes the transmission work nice. And also has a couple of updates too, if you will. Like for instance, this is the fourth clutch piston, and this is the return spring. And most of the time, when you take the pump out and take the coast drum out, you're going to find the snap ring has popped out. So therefore, with the shift kit, there's a big spiral clip that goes in here that works real nice. It will not come out. And again, we'll go over the contents of the shift kit, and then we'll go ahead and install the shift kit. This was done already, this transmission. Had a rebuilt a billet converter in it, and also on the diesels, especially this is a workhorse. It's a pool company that I guess goes around and services and installs pools, stuff like that. So I also had ordered a billet converter for these big utility trucks. All right, so normally this is one of the accumulator pistons and springs. Normally you see you just have one spring in here, just like this, and on the second accumulator, I guess maybe to try to beef it up, they put a couple extra springs in here, and the springs are all busted up. So I'll give you a close-up shot of that. But we're going to be putting some springs, more than one spring in each one. But again, it will follow along with the shift kit. Really is a great product, and I guess that is about it. And a couple other things that I did want to show you tomorrow. As far as the case bushing goes, I like using two-piece case bushings. So I knock one all the way down, and then there's a loophole, and then I knock one, so one on top, one on the bottom of the loophole. There also is a one-piece bushing, which I don't really care to use, just in case that bushing for some reason may turn. You're going to totally block that loop. You're not going to get anything, and the transmission's going to be completely destroyed. So, I knocked this bushing out, and it looked like the reason why we got this job in, but I did not really look at it because I honestly didn't know it was a one-piece bushing. But this thing looked like it had no lube. The whole center of the transmission, from the forward drum to the shell, I had to change because everything was all black and looked like it had no lubrication. This the complaint was no reverse, but this also moved forward in neutral because the forward clutch was locked on. So that's why it had no reverse, because you have the reverse clutch that comes on and the forward clutch which is locked on. So, you know, forward clutch wants to move it one way, reverse clutch wants to move it one way, so it's not going to move it all in reverse. In neutral, when all the clutches are off, it goes forward. All right, so I guess that is about it for now. I'm going to catch up with you guys tomorrow morning, and we will install this shift kit. All right, so I will see you in the morning. Okay, back with you guys this morning. And the first thing we're going to do again is we're going to check out the contents of this Transgo shift kit for this E4OD. All right, so here's actually the instructions. So those we'll go over as we are installing the kit. Okay, so first we gotta, let's actually get everything out of the box. Okay, so this is for our pressure regulator valve. Okay, this is a boost valve for the pressure regulator valve. We got an O-ring for the direct drum, drill bit, a couple of springs. The big one is for the pressure regulator valve, little one's for the TCC valve, a little poppet valve here that's going to replace a check ball in the case, drill bit. These are all for the accumulator body, all these springs. And they started recently adding this spring. I did a video once on a 40100 that had no second because of a broken spring for the shift valve. And they started adding this into the kit as well. Like I said, somebody did work on this already, and I believe that spring has been changed, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to change that spring out. Okay, this is a snap ring only for the stamped steel drum, the coast drum. And they wanted you to, they want the snap ring to like lock itself. So you'd have to measure it, you got to grind it, so when you install the snap ring, you know, it'll come together and kind of lock itself. But this we're not going to be using. And here's the spiral lock for this piston here. Okay, here is the snap ring. They want you to cut it, measure it, cut it, and lock it in case you have like a 4R100. Okay, it's not for the cast iron drum, so we go back with the regular snap ring. So this we're not going to be using. But everything else in the kit, we will be. Okay. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work with this section right here, which is the accumulator. I'm going to back out a little bit. Okay, so we're going to start up here with the fourth accumulator, which is this right here. So I got everything laid out. All right, so we're going to set the springs up, and then we're going to install everything. Okay. All right, let me just point this down a little bit. Okay, so for the fourth accumulator, we're going to do the 3 orange springs. So 1 small, 1 medium, and 1 large. All right, let me open this here. Okay. So there is 1 large spring. And then this one will go right inside. And then the small one also will go inside. So that's what the setup looks like. Okay, we're going to get rid of this spring. Put this here. All right, now the third, we're going to actually use 4 springs. An orange, white, orange, and silver. All right, so we have the orange. Now we need a white spring. Okay, that would be right here. Small orange and silver. These are stuck together here. Okay, there we go. Replace this spring here. All right, and the last one here for the second, we're actually going to be getting into the entire assembly. These just took out the piston and the springs. There's also a valve in here, which I'll get the casting and show you. And they are line regulator valves. So this one, we're going to replace it with the steel one. All right, and that valve looks like this. Now, I believe Transgo and maybe even Sonics has the set, so you can actually do all 3. They're all the same. All right, so this is the valve that came out. Now we're going to put the steel valve in. Okay, and it has a tiny, tiny spring. So that's what that looks like. You don't want to lose that. And then the stopper. Okay, and we're going to do 3 orange springs and a silver, which are the balance of the springs. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this one. Okay, so this is one here that looks similar, like somebody had put extra springs in here to beef up the shift, and the springs were all busted up in there. Okay, now down here, this one here I don't really touch, though somebody had installed this middle one with an O-ring on it. And normally does not come like that. It is aluminum. And then they give you this spring, which I don't put in. And it's this is the line boost valve, line boost spring. And it says if very light throttle parking lot 1-2 is baggy, install the white line boost spring. There are several causes of high pressure that can make abusive shifts. If you have hard shifts, soft shifts, or missing gears, then they say, you know, give us a call. They're really good over there as far as tech help. You know, you can call them, ask them a question. So I like to leave this spring, the lighter spring. You know, one time I was having an issue with, I think it was a 4R100, putting it reverse. I had a slight delay in reverse, and I had called them to ask them, and actually in reverse you got three elements get applied, so you got 3 cavities that have to be filled. So one of the things he said is to leave this spring alone so the valves will move quicker. If you put the heavier spring in, they may not move as quick, which can cause a little bit of a delay. So I pretty much never changed this spring here. So we're all set to load this into the accumulator body. And again, these end plugs have threaded holes. Okay, so it's easy to install them and pull them out. These are the clips, and sometimes when you take the clips out, the clips are a little distorted, but just bend them back into shape and you'll be okay. Okay, so here, if you can see this, there's a valve in here and a valve in here, and this side is empty, but you want to make sure these valves are free. They are the same as this valve here we're going to be putting in. Okay, so let me get my little, all right, let me just grab it out of my drawer. Okay, so let's make sure these are free, which they are. Okay, so now we're going to start loading up the accumulator body. Okay, so the fourth one first, fourth accumulator. Okay, here's a little valve with a little piston. That drop right in. Springs. And if you want, you can put this on here. Let me just bring it down a little bit. Get it centered. Here's the clip. And then just give it a push. Okay? Alright, next one is the third accumulator. Springs. Okay, go back to seat it, very good. Okay, so next this line, boost valve and spring and everything, we're going to put this back. Okay, so this should just drop right in. Okay, right in, very nice. And then this does have an O-ring on it. So this is probably, maybe this is maybe like a Sonic's product or something like that. But I never really had an issue where I had to change it, this setup here. Okay, just get it straight. There's a little different clip, but still the same thing. Just put it right in place. Okay. That valve is good. That valve kind of floats in here also. I just want to make sure it's nice and free. Okay, very good. Okay, so now, let me just, I gotta get a couple of things together because we gotta put this valve in, which it should drop right in. You know, what I do is after I take the valve out, have like the bench buddies you run on the drill, so I kind of run it through here and just clean any burrs off or anything, and this normally drops right in. And then we gotta squish this spring down, little tiny spring to put this stopper in. Okay, so the valve will go in, the spring will go in, and then this goes in, this side goes in against the spring. Okay, so just give me a few minutes here. Let me just get, I have a long, thin screwdriver I like to use for that. I just gotta run and get it. Okay. All right, so this is how I install it, because I gotta push the spring down and then put the stopper in. Okay, so we're gonna put this steel line reg valve in, and again, Transgo is a kit where you can actually change all three if you like. Okay, so I'm gonna drop this valve in, center it. Okay, this one it went in super easy. Sometimes centering it and stuff's a little bit of a pain. All right, now the spring, put the spring in place. Okay. All right, so this is going to go here. All right, so I use this long, thin screwdriver because it'll fit through the little slot in the stopper here, and it makes it easy to put this in. Okay, so let's push down on the spring. All right, I'm just going to push this down a little more so it is countersunk. Okay, that looks good. I'm just going to make sure the valve is free, which it is. You can hear that. Okay, so that's good. All right, and then we have our other accumulator valve here. Springs. And the plug. Okay. Put this in. Place, pull it back. Okay, so this section, accumulator body section of the shift kit is done. All right, let me reposition, and now we're going to do the pump. So this I can get rid of. All right, so the pump, okay, let me just reposition here, and we'll get what we need for the pump. Okay, so we're going to need this, and the spring from here. This actually is two pieces. Okay. The boost valve has a little rubber cap on it so the valve does not fall out. And a large and small spring. Okay, this is for the boost valve and this is for the TCC valve. Okay, so this is the current setup that comes out, and the new setup, we get rid of these, all this here, okay, and then Okay, so this is the pump area you're going to be working with. These valves in this section, there is no need to, there's only one valve depending on if you have a PWM or non-PWM, but no need to take that out, just make sure it's free. Okay, the converter regulator valve, going to put the yellow spring in, and the pressure regulator valve, we're going to put that setup in. Okay, so use the original valve, and then you put this here, and you put this here, spring, and boost valve. So that's what the new setup is going to look like. Okay, also on this pump. Now back in the day, what we used to do, okay, so the pressure regulator valve setup is going to go in here. And back in the day, what we used to do was drill a hole through this wall to kind of get line to lube. Okay, this hasn't been done on this pump. But if you happen to open up a pump that was done, you need to block that hole. What I normally do is, you know, it's a little tiny hole, but sometimes I drill it larger and put like a rivet or something in there, just to block that hole, and then you can go ahead and put the setup in that calls for in the shift kit. Okay. So this spring, we're going to do after. All right, so let me just get my tools ready for this, and let me reposition so you guys can see what I'm doing. Well, let me just bring the camera up a little bit. Okay, and these are the pliers, one of the two pairs we're going to use to get that snap ring in. Okay. So we'll start with dropping in the pressure regulator valve. Okay, that dropped right in, pretty much under its own weight. Okay, next, I'm going to put this spring seat in. And they call this the outer piece I just spring seat I put in, they call it the outer trick spring seat, and this is the inner. I guess the way they designed this, it might possibly make it like full-time lube. Okay, then we have the orange spring, and then we have the regular spring, and then we're going to have the boost valve. But you know, you turn this thing upside down, this valve is going to fall out. So let's get some trans gel here. See if we can hold this boost valve in place. And again, once this stuff heats up, it totally melts. And you got to get this thing centered. Lose it, which I think I just did, and popped up. Okay. it very easy. All right, so now let's make sure the setup is good. Yeah, nice and free. Okay, very good. All right, let me bring it back down a little bit. Okay, so the next one is TCC regulated valve spring. And we just gotta pop this clip out here. Okay, you gotta hold the end plug in because that's gonna fly out on you. Here's the old spring, put in the new spring. Okay, that's that. Okay, now it's free. Okay, so that pump section is done. All right, just want to show you the pump body and gears. Okay, I got a new bushing in here, and here is my updated front seal. Okay, we're doing good. Let's get rid of this here. Okay, next, this is the direct drum. Now normally, where is the seal? This would take a, where is it? Okay, this is it. This would normally take a lip seal in the drum where you feed it into the drum. Okay, but in the shift kit, they give you this D-ring, okay, and what they want you to do is actually turn it inside out and feed it into the drum. So you see that the white stripe is facing out, so you got to turn it in so the white stripe is facing in now, and then you go ahead and feed it into the drum. All right, so what happens with this is sometimes this piston may tend to get worn out, and it may give you a double bump engagement. All right, so just keep turning it inside out. You know what, let me get, let me just switch positions, and I'll get right into the drum so you can just see how the seal goes in. All right, just give me 2 minutes here. Okay, so we're going to continue to feed this seal in here. I'm trying to not be in the way. Okay, so now and there's also an inner seal, a lip seal. So now when I put this in, this is not so easy to get in. I use the trans gel along with STP and try to push it down, you know, instead of setting it in place and banging it down. But I try to push it down, you know, as far as I can with my thumbs. And again, it's very, very hard to go in. And then what I do, I mean, it's a little easier for me because I have the equipment. I take it over to my foot press, you know, and that would apply equal pressure and normally drop right in instead of, you know, hitting the thing where this thing may possibly may come out and get ruined. So this is the seal. I'll show you the piston. Let me just get set up again in a normal position here. Let me just move this camera. Okay. this is the piston for the drum. All right, so, and a lot of times this piston here, see, it actually feels a little rough, so I'm gonna clean this up. But normally the piston may wear out, you know, may wear down, so that's the reason for the D-ring. But this I'm gonna clean up because I don't even like the way this feels here. You know, sand it down smooth and then go ahead and install it. All right, so that is the piston. These are the springs. That's what that looks like. All right, so this is done. And this is that lip seal here that I do not use because I like to put the shift kit in. Okay, so I gotta actually go get my drill. We're gonna drill the plate, and then we have the spiral lock to put in. And then the shift kit is done. Oh, and this here, this little blue spring, we're gonna change. So this, in the case, you have this relief valve that sits in the case with the little ball on top like that. So this ball gets replaced with this valve here. And the instructions, it shows you where it goes in the case. All right, and then this little orifice here, I also leave out because this goes into the case for the low reverse clutch. And when I was talking to these guys at Transgo, you know, we were discussing the, like the low reverse clutch comes on, the coast clutch comes on, and the direct clutch comes on in reverse. So that's 3 cavities that have to get filled. With this orifice in here, you know, it may take a little longer. So I've been leaving this orifice out that goes into the case, and in the instructions, it'll show you where to go. Okay, the orifice would go right down in here, and that little poppet valve goes right here. This is, here's like where the solenoid pack sits. And it goes right in the corner there. And the other one goes down here on the bottom. All right, so I've been leaving that out. So the low reverse fills a little quicker. All right, so that is this one here. And that's actually was recommended by one of the guys over at Transgo. Okay, so, you know what, before we drill the plate, let's get the valve body. Okay, so it looks like there actually is a blue spring in here, like somebody changed it. All right, so but we'll take it out so we can see the valve train, what it looks like, and we'll put the new spring in. All right, you want to make sure all your valves here are nice and free. All right, here is a little clip. Okay, there we go, nice and easy, comes right out. Now we're going to have a little valve in the front here. It's going to come out first. Okay, and then the valve will come out. And the spring. Okay, and it comes with a little heads up to watch for it, and It's the RFF6 on the casting and RFF8 casting bodies with this blue spring. You know, it may look good, but it's recommended to take the valve out and physically look at the spring. Okay, so here's the valve. I like to put a little trans gel so the spring will stick on there. Okay, that back in. Okay, looks good. And the end cap, or plug as they say. Okay, that is that. Okay, that was nice and free. Okay, here's the spring. This. All right, so really all we got to do is drill the plate. That back in the basket. You got to just drill the plate. And then basically the shift kit is done. All right, so we're going to drill 2 holes on this. And they give you the drill bit that is supplied. Okay, so according to these, you know, there's 89 is early, and then it's like 89 to 94, 95 to 98, 99 and up. So depending on how the plate looks, you're either going to have 2 or 3 holes to drill. Okay, so we have 2. So there's a hole here, here, and here. But a lot of times this hole on the later ones is not in this plate. This one right here. So that you just leave alone and don't worry about it. You just drill the 2. All right, so let me go get my drill. And those holes, it is this one here, and it is this one here. Okay, let me go get my drill. We'll do that. And then after the holes are drilled, there may be like a little, you know, lip on it. So just make sure you file it smooth and get the lip off. I have like my little brown cookie on my whiz wheel that I like to do to get them smooth. So let me just run and get that, and I will be right back. Okay, so the 2 holes, we'll drill those out. One, 2. Okay. So it's a little, you know, a little rough on this side. So I'm going to just take my, you know, cookie or my sander and kind of just sand that down. Okay, and that completes the install. Oh no, it doesn't. We have this spiral lock here to put on. Sometimes these things go right in, sometimes they don't, but let me see how I can do this. Let me see how I can do. You know, I just push down with one screwdriver and use another screwdriver to kind of feed it into the groove. But I'll try while the camera is on. Hoping you guys can see it. Let me get a couple of things here. Also good to use. Alright, so basically you just got to get the end started in, and then you just kind of feed it around. You know, you may have to Of course, they make a tool, you know, to push that down, but I just inch it around. Okay, well, that one is kind of easy too. That's it, that's in. And here's the intermediate side here, the center support. Okay. Okay. I guess that is about it for the ship kit. The ship kit is done. I wanted to show you this one-piece bushing here on this case bushing for the E4OD. These are the ones, you see it's got the one hole here for the lube, and I like to use the two-piece bushing. I've always used that, just in case something happens. You know, if this thing turns, then it's totally going to cut off lube, so I like to use the two-piece bushing. That's what I've always used. That's, you know, of course, my preference. And this is a special solenoid pack. This is a non-PWM solenoid pack. All right, it is a later one because it has to just connector on one side. But the way to tell PWM from non-PWM is you look at the 4 solenoids, and if they're all the same, it's non-PWM. If one of them is different, then it's PWM. Okay, but what makes this solenoid pack a little different, this is a 7.3 liter diesel, and when lockup would normally come on, it would really, sometimes on these diesels, you know, really lug the engine. So I get this from Transtar, and it's a special solenoid pack to delay the lockup, maybe to, like, you know, 4th gear. And it works real nice. I'm using these for like years, and when you know, we couldn't get it at one point, I don't think we could get it. We would put them in. It just didn't like the way it worked when it went into lockup. So, you know, I've been using these back again for a couple of years. And they're, you know, they're great, you know, delayed lockup. So I think they make them for both PWM and non-PWM. I'm pretty sure they do, but anytime I get a diesel, that's what I like to use, that particular solenoid pack. I don't know who else has those. You know, I'm sure other people make them as well, but like I said, I get everything through Transtar. And I've been using them, and they've been working great. All right, I just want to go over check ball locations on this section of the valve body on this E4OD. Okay, so we have 2 large check balls that from 89 and up, it's always going to take. And then there's a variable of these check balls. Okay, it's pretty much always going to take this one and this one, and the variable is this one right here. Okay, and how to tell if it takes the check ball or not, if you hold the plate over the valve body, you'll see this has 2 holes here, and if it has 2 holes, it takes a check ball. Okay, and this has 2 holes here, so this definitely takes a check ball. Okay, on later ones, this will have 1 hole, so it will not take a check ball. So that's kind of how you can tell if you happen to take this thing down and the check balls fall out and you weren't sure. Okay, it's going to always take the 2 large ones and the 2 here and here, and the variable will be this one, okay? 2 holes it takes a check ball, 1 hole it does not take a check ball. All right, so I just wanted to go over that with you guys. And I think that's about it for the installation of this E4OD shift kit. So I thank you guys for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you next one.